At a family BBQ, she told everyone I was just temporary, then kissed him in front of my parents. Have you ever had your entire body go cold while standing in the middle of a warm, sunny day? That's what happened to me. The smell of grilled steak and charcoal was in the air. My dad was laughing too loud at one of his own jokes. The kids were running in the yard with water balloons, and everything was supposed to be normal, joyful even, until she opened her mouth. It wasn't a fight, it wasn't a slip-up, it wasn't even whispered in private. She said it casually, with a smirk like it was an inside joke everyone but me already knew. My girlfriend of nearly 2 years, who I had brought into my family's circle, introduced to my parents, trusted to share our lives together, looked around at cousins, uncles, aunts, and then said, "Oh, him. He's just temporary." The whole yard went silent. Even the kids stopped running for a second, sensing the tension that dropped like a stone into the middle of us all. And before I could even gather words, before I could demand an explanation, she leaned in, turned her head and kissed him. Not me, him, and not just anyone. My cousin. I stood there, burger tongs still in my hand, apron still tied around my waist, staring as she pressed her lips against his in front of everyone. My mom gasped audibly. My dad's beer bottle nearly slipped from his hand, and my cousins stared like they were watching some twisted reality show. I felt the world tilt, like the ground under my feet had liquefied. I didn't shout. I didn't throw the tongs. I didn't storm off. I froze, completely. Because sometimes the human body doesn't fight or flee. Sometimes it just locks up, unwilling to believe that what's happening could possibly be real. When she finally pulled away from him, she looked back at me with a smile that wasn't apologetic at all. It was triumphant, like she had been waiting for this moment, like she wanted me to know. I couldn't process it right then. My father cleared his throat, muttered something about needing more ice, and disappeared into the house. My mother rushed to gather the kids inside. The yard, once filled with laughter and music, fell into the kind of silence that's louder than noise. She just sat there beside him, sipping her drink, acting like nothing was wrong. I excused myself, walked into the house, closed the bathroom door, and for the first time in years, I had to grip the sink just to keep myself upright. My reflection in the mirror didn't even look like me. My face was pale, my eyes wide, my lips pressed into a thin, bloodless line. I asked myself over and over, did that just happen? Did she really say that? Did she really kiss him, in front of my parents? The answer was yes. And suddenly, all the little cracks in our relationship began to flood back into my mind. The nights she said she was working late, the texts she angled her phone away for, the sudden interest in family bonding when she used to avoid my cousins at all costs. I had noticed the way her laughter with him was always a little louder, her eyes a little brighter, but I told myself it was innocent. That's the thing about betrayal. You explain away the truth until it slaps you across the face in front of everyone you love. When I finally walked back outside, people avoided my eyes. My mom gave me that look, the one mothers give when they want to hug you, but know you'd break. My dad's jaw was tight, his arms crossed, a storm brewing in his silence. And she was still there, still smiling, still sipping her drink like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of my family. I didn't say a word the rest of the barbecue. I cooked, I cleaned, I smiled weakly when spoken to, but inside, I was already building something. Not rage, not revenge, something colder, calculation. Because the worst part wasn't even the kiss. It was her words, just temporary, like all the nights we'd shared. The promises we'd made, the life we'd built, were nothing. Like I had been some placeholder until she got what she really wanted. That night, after everyone left, I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or demand answers. I let her think she'd humiliated me into silence. She went to bed smug, curled on her side of the mattress without a care in the world. And as I lay there staring at the ceiling, my body still buzzing with shock, I decided something. She thought I was temporary. Fine. Then I'd show her what temporary really meant. The next morning, I began collecting bank statements, text messages, social media posts she thought I'd never see, receipts she'd left crumpled in her purse, and every trail led back to him. My cousin. The betrayal wasn't just hers. It was his too. Family, blood. The boy I grew up sharing toys and secrets with, the one who stood by me at graduations, who ate at our table every Thanksgiving. The two people who should have never betrayed me were the ones who did. and I wasn't going to let it slide. I didn't tell anyone what I found at first. I played the fool. I still went to family dinners. I still let her think we were fine. I let him think I didn't know, because silence is the sharpest knife. It makes people careless, and careless people always expose themselves. But I was patient. I waited for the right moment, because when you've been humiliated in front of everyone, the only way to reclaim yourself is in front of everyone too, and that moment came sooner than I thought. My parents' wedding anniversary. A big one. They invited the whole family, booked a hall, hired a band. Everyone would be there. Friends, cousins, neighbors, including her, including him. I knew it was the stage I'd been waiting for. That night, as my parents took the dance floor, as glasses clinked and music played, I watched her laughing at the table beside him. Her hand brushed his. Their eyes lingered just a little too long. Most people might have missed it, but I didn't. Not anymore. I stood, my hands steady, my voice calm, and said, "Before we toast my parents, I think it's time everyone saw the truth." And with that, I pulled out my phone, synced it to the projector, and one by one, the evidence lit up the screen. Her texts to him, his replies, bank statements showing dinners, hotels, trips, photos of them together, taken when she told me she was with friends. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, shouts. My mother clutched her chest. My father's face turned red with fury. My cousins exchanged looks of disbelief, and she went pale, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I turned to her, my voice steady, almost cold. "You said I was temporary. You were right, because tonight, you're over, both of you." And then I left. The chaos behind me didn't matter. Her tears, his excuses, the family's outrage. None of it mattered, because for the first time since that barbecue, since she said those words, I felt light. This wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. But it was the beginning of theirs. And it was written in flame. When I walked out of that anniversary party, leaving the projector screen glowing with their texts and receipts, I felt like I'd just set fire to a house I'd been trapped inside for years. The flames were behind me, crackling, consuming, everyone else scrambling to make sense of the inferno. But I was walking into the night air, breathing deeply for the first time. Of course, freedom doesn't come clean. The fallout hit like a tidal wave the next morning. My phone buzzed non-stop, missed calls from her, texts from my cousin, voicemails from relatives. Some were furious at them, some were stunned, and a few, always the cowards, accused me of making a scene, of airing dirty laundry in front of the whole family. I didn't respond to any of them, because I'd learned something in those weeks of silence before: the truth doesn't need defending, it just needs to be shown. But she didn't stop. Oh no, she doubled down. That's the thing about people like her, they think they can rewrite the story even after it's been broadcast in bold letters. She showed up at my apartment 2 days later, makeup streaked, hair unkempt, her eyes swollen from crying. She knocked until my neighbors peeked out their doors. "Please," she whispered when I opened it just enough to block her from coming in. "Please, just let me explain." I almost laughed in her face. Explain? What was there to explain? The texts on the screen had been her words. The receipts were signed with her name. The photos were her face, her smile, her hand locked with his. Still, I listened. Call it curiosity. Call it cruelty. She said it hadn't meant anything at first, that it was just fun, that she didn't realize how serious it had gotten. She said the barbecue kiss was a mistake, that she had only wanted to make me jealous, to wake me up, to remind me not to take her for granted. That word mistake hung in the air like smoke. "You called me temporary," I said, my voice low, steady, in front of my parents. "Then you kissed my cousin. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice." She broke down then, sobbing, reaching for me. I stepped back. For the first time I saw her clearly, not as the woman I had once loved, but as someone who had built her entire life on lies and expected me to carry the weight. I shut the door. That should have been the end, but betrayal doesn't burn out quickly. It smoldered. The family fractured almost overnight. Some relatives cut her, and my cousin off immediately. My dad, normally a quiet man, told him to never set foot in his house again. My mum cried for weeks, torn between anger and heartbreak that her family had been ripped apart. Aunts and uncles took sides. whispers spreading at every gathering. The cousin I had grown up with, the boy who used to share candy with me at Christmas, became a pariah. He texted me once. Just once. "Man, I'm sorry. It just happened. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared at that message for a long time. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard, and then I deleted it. Because what could I possibly say? You don't just happen to kiss your cousin's girlfriend. You don't just happen to betray blood. That wasn't an accident. That was betrayal with a capital B. As for her, she spiraled. Without me, without the family, without the image she had built, she started clinging harder to him. They moved in together, posted pictures online of new beginnings. But everyone could see it. The smiles weren't as bright. The captions sounded forced, and people whispered behind their backs, not in admiration but in ridicule. Meanwhile, I began rebuilding. It wasn't easy. At first, every morning felt like dragging myself out of rubble. The apartment was too quiet, the bed too cold, the echoes of her laugh haunted me. I questioned myself endlessly. Had I missed the signs? Had I been blind? Had I been so desperate for love that I ignored the truth? Therapy helped. Writing helped more. I filled journal after journal, pouring out every memory, every question, every ounce of rage and grief. Friends rallied around me, some sitting in silence, others dragging me to bars or basketball games, reminding me that I was still alive. One night, months later, I found myself at another barbecue. Not family this time. Friends. There was laughter, music, the smell of smoke and burgers. For a moment I froze, the memories threatening to drown me. But then I realized I was smiling, really smiling. Not because everything was fixed, but because I wasn't carrying the weight anymore. She tried to contact me again after that. Sent long emails, pages of apologies and explanations. She said she missed me. She said she had been confused, lost, stupid. She said he wasn't what she thought he was, that she wanted to come back, that we could start over. I didn't reply, because here's the truth. Some doors don't just close. They lock, they seal, they disappear. The last time I saw her was at a grocery store. She looked smaller, her eyes tired, her hair dull. She smiled weakly when she saw me, as if waiting for me to give her permission to speak. I nodded once, polite, and walked past. That was it. That was closure. And my cousin. He didn't last. A year later, they broke up. He cheated on her. The cycle repeated. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so pathetic. As for me, I moved on. Slowly, carefully. I rebuilt trust brick by brick. Not in others at first, but in myself. Trusting that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't imagining things, that my instincts had been right all along. That was the real healing. Learning that I wasn't temporary. Because she thought she could define me with one careless line at a barbecue. She thought she could humiliate me into silence, reduce me to nothing in front of my parents. But she was wrong. She was the temporary one, and I was permanent enough to outlast her life.